Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Maria and I have been diagnosed with advanced ovarian cancer. And this My Cancer Journey Maria channel basically talks about my treatment, what I've been going through, symptoms, life in general, which with this type of cancer diagnosis, cancer tends to be the primary topic of discussion. And, as you look through my vlogs, if you have any questions or whatnot, I'll try my best to answer them. All right. Thank you. Welcome. During one of our discussions with my doctor, it was brought up that, geez, should I get the flu shot? Should I get the most updated COVID booster, given, the side effects that I've been dealing with, how I haven't really felt great or whatever. It was recommended that I get both the flu shot and the updated COVID booster. And given the fact that I'm going to see my family this Christmas and I am not going to not see anyone, it made sense to get them. So today I got both the flu shot and the updated COVID booster. I was very hesitant to get the COVID booster because the last two times that I got the boosters, which was my third and fourth shot, I was sick for days. I had a fever, I had muscle aches, I didn't want to move, I was fatigued, and this is my off chemo week, although I have chemo this Friday, and I want to feel good. But then on the other hand, I don't want to get so sick because my immune system is so compromised that I put myself in a worse position. So I'll keep you updated as far as whether or not I'm getting any side effects from the COVID shot and or flu shot. I've never had issues with flu shots other than a sore arm. So fingers crossed that the fifth time is the charm and no side effects, and the rest of my week is relatively good and the shot does its job. So it's Monday, December 12th, 2022. Did not hear from my doctors today, but then again, he indicated that we would get together or touch base at the beginning of this week. And with it being Monday, yes, I'm anxious to hear some news. But then I started second guessing myself and I'm thinking, should I have made an appointment with the doctor? Should I have done a follow-up appointment? So I figured I'd use my chart, send a message and say, hey, should I be booking an appointment with you guys so we can discuss next steps and what your review of my imaging was, given all the CAT scans that I've had over the time. So I sent a message and hopefully I'll hear back tomorrow. If nothing else, at least get an appointment in the books or at least have an ETA as far as when this further discussion about my most recent CAT scan results and steps to go forward will take place, because I'm anxious and I want to know and I want to fight. So definitely not feeling well today. As you can see, I'm a little on the teary side, but I was resting on the couch and all of a sudden my face felt like it was super hot and I'm thinking, I wonder if I have a fever. So like I have the ear thermometer, which isn't the most accurate, but I usually use it as the first line of defense. And I took that, it was 102.1. So I'm like, oh, now I have to do the oral one. And I have two oral ones. So I took one and it was 101.7. And then the other one was 102.3. So they want you to call, any cancer patients to call the office if you have a fever over 100.7. And I qualify for that. So I called and waiting for a call back. I'm hoping I don't need to go into the hospital, and we'll see how Tylenol and ibuprofen works, if they clear it. But if not, I made sure to pack a hospital bag just in case I have to go in and get admitted. So we'll see. I am super emotional right now. And I'm not even sure why, other than, I am so grateful for the people who are in my life and who care about me and my husband and wish nothing but the best for us. So I've been having an emotional morning, looking through potential clinical trials that hopefully can save my life. And I got the doorbell rang, and I went thinking, okay, it must be some of the Christmas presents that I ordered or whatever. And I looked down, and this is what I got. So the funniest thing is that I had been dying for some of this, but if you've ever done if you've ever done the chocolate dipped strawberries, it's a little bit of a pain. It's worth it, but it's a little bit of a pain, and I've been dying for some of them, but I haven't said anything to anyone except myself. And just to see this and, the generosity of a neighbor that we don't know super well. We say hello, but it just has touched me to no end. And God, we are so lucky. We are so lucky. So I went in for my blood test, and I just looked at the results, and apparently there's 2 results that has critical level inquiry, and then there's notations that the lab contacted my doctor. So I'm not quite sure what that means. So I expect to hear back from my doctor at some point today, figure out what that means, and then go from there. On the bright side, the Tylenol did reduce my fever to like a 99.5. Woke up, still have a raised temperature, but nothing like the 102 that I had yesterday. So hoping that this is just a blip in the treatment, and I can still get chemo on Friday, and treatment can progress, and hopefully soon we can have some real options and answers. So I heard from my doctor, and it's just the ongoing issue of my anemia with respect to the blood work. So when I go in for chemo on Friday, when I go in for chemo on Friday, they'll take an extra vial, match my blood, and likely get a blood transfusion at that point. With Christmas coming up, I need to finish my Christmas shopping. I have most of it done, but there's still some that, you can only do so much shopping online, and it's not like I can really be in any crowds. I also am not driving, so I'm dependent on people. And so I want to find out if I can maybe go shopping with someone early in the morning if some of the stores are open, so I can just get a few of those final gifts. I'm really looking forward to Christmas and spending that time with my family and my children. Well, my children are my family, but I just love Christmas. It's just a magical time for me. It always has been. It always will be. And, I just want to have it extra special. I'm really excited because the kids are going to come over, or the family's going to come over to our house for Christmas. And while I'm not really able to prepare the meals like I usually do and host, everyone's going to come over and work together to put the meal together, put it on the table, clean up after. So while everyone will be at our house, we're not going to need to do the work. Not that I really could do it, or if I push myself to do it and manage to somehow do it, I probably wouldn't be moving very well at all, or sleeping the whole day, because yeah. As far as the clinical trials, I'll go wherever gives me the best chance, wherever. I assume it'd be well, confined to the United States, because I'm not quite sure my insurance would cover treatment out of the country. But, you know, if there's a clinical trial that will give me the best shot and it's in Texas, or if it's in New York, sign me up. Sign me up. I'll do the travel, because isn't your life worth it? I think my life is. So today is Friday, December 16th, and I still have no information about any potential clinical trials or next steps, and they're continuing to evaluate the information, my tumor profile, and all that stuff. But I gotta say, the waiting is awful. It's anxiety provoking. I'm the kind of person where if I have a goal, I need the pathway. Okay, what way are we going to take? Or at least, what are some of these choices so I can analyze them and, you know, the pros and cons of each. I've done my own research on clinicaltrials.gov, as well as the various cancer centers have their own clinical trial pages. So I'm aware of some that I think I may fit into, but I just don't know. So hopefully I'm going to hear something soon so we can start making some decisions. This morning, I'm getting ready to go get a paracentesis. I know that I've felt a lot more bloating, a lot more pressure in my abdomen. And so I think that it is the fluid accumulation, the ascites accumulating in my abdomen, but I'm not really sure, because another part of me feels like it could be tumor growth as well, which scares the hell out of me. But, you know, we'll find out this morning. If it is fluid, I'm going to be feeling a lot better after. I had a very difficult night. I kept on waking up in pain. The painkillers were good. As soon as I took them, once they kicked in, I was able to go back to sleep. But, you know, who the heck wants to live on painkillers all the time? I certainly don't. But hey, at least the pain goes away. So after my paracentesis, I'm going to have a little bit of time. I'll visit with my parents, and then I have scheduled chemotherapy. But one of the wrinkles is earlier this week, we knew that my blood counts were down. So I had to go in yesterday, and they needed to take some blood for blood matching. So I'll also have a blood transfusion today as well. But, you know, I'm sort of ahead of the curve. Look at this. This is in my chemo shirt. So easy access. So they've already accessed my port. So that will save me some time. So as soon as I get there, they can put me in a room and, you know, do the pre-meds and stuff like that. But I'll be there for a few hours between the carboplatin, gemcitabine, and the pre-meds, even before that, as well as the blood transfusion. And then hopefully I'll feel great for this weekend. All right, so yesterday was a tough day. I had a difficult evening because I had a lot of pain and I was up most of the night. And once pain is out of control, it's really hard to catch up to it and get it under control. But I made sure to take my morphine and my oxycodone with me to my full day of appointments yesterday, and, you know, still had trouble managing it. But so yesterday, my first appointment was a paracentesis, which is to take out the ascites, the abdominal fluid. And this time there was enough ascites for them to remove it. Although the rate of accumulation of the ascites has been reduced, which I'm very happy about. It's a positive sign. But they did take 2.5 liters out of me. And you think about it, I mean, that's a lot of liquid. So when I have a paracentesis, I typically experience pretty heavy cramping for the rest of the day. So let's just say that that cramping in connection with the abdominal pain that I was already feeling was not a really super great combination. But I had a little bit of time in between my appointments, so I was able to spend some time with my parents, which was lovely. And, they made me a lovely lunch, and then they brought me back to treatment. And my mom stayed with me throughout my treatment, which ended up being longer than initially expected, only because I needed a blood transfusion. So I had my blood transfusion, I had carboplatin and gemcitabine. Next Friday, I'll only have the gemcitabine and, if my blood work shows up anything, whatever else they add on, because it always seems like I need something. But one of the things that I'm really trying to learn and remember is that I need to be flexible with treatment and timings, because things will change, and those changes are to, be in my best interest. So it's so much better to be flexible. So I had no problem with my chemo or blood transfusion at all. But I do have an update. I know that a lot of times this week I was saying, hey, I haven't heard from my doctors at all as far as clinical trials, because it's sort of like a waiting game. And we were talking about next steps. So during the infusion process, my oncologist did come in to visit, which I always appreciate when they just pop their heads in and say hello. But I think it was sort of a unplanned, appointment, but, maybe in response to some of my messages where I had asked for updates, and rather than just trying to send it through my chart, he figured he'd pop his head in and talk to me about it. So I really appreciated that. Although, it takes me time to process things, and my short-term memory is a little impeded. So more often than not, I really need someone there to really pay attention and remember what is being said. So as far as my discussion with the oncologist, so I have an update, but it's also a, hey, we need to wait for some other things. So as far as the update, as far as what we're doing going forward, he came in, asked me how I was, asked about my abdominal pain. We talked about how the thoracentesis, which is when they removed the liquid around my lungs, how much relief that brought me, and how grateful I was that that procedure was done. Listened to my lungs, and then asked me if I had any questions. I'm like, well, I've been waiting to hear some information about clinical trials and, what we were looking for, because the last appointment was basically, hey, we're going to be looking at clinical trials, because I was just having a mixed response to the Gemzar, and the Gemzar is the same as the gemcitabine. I was having a mixed response to the Gemzar, and the CT scan was only after 2 cycles of it. But we were able to talk about the clinical trials. So there are a couple trials that would be a good fit for me, but they're either not enrolling right now, which doesn't mean that they're forever not going to be enrolling, or a spot won't open up at a later time. Harley, what are you doing? Get out of the Christmas tree. Sorry. But the other problem is that I have an autoimmune disease called lupus. Specific type is SLE, systemic lupus erythematosus. I could be mispronouncing the last word, but that's not unusual with me in medical terms. But unfortunately, that's been an exclusion for several trials. And so one of the things that he was suggesting is that they would be getting in touch with my rheumatologist. And I've had the same rheumatologist for 26 years. And I think maybe he was my second one, and the first one I only had seen a few months. So he knows my lupus like the front and back of his hand. I saw my rheumatologist more often than my primary doctor because, they have to follow you. The medications that you're on require quarterly blood work and stuff like that. So booking an appointment with my rheumatologist, and maybe there can be some documentation from him indicating how stable he believes my lupus is, or maybe a summary of how I've been over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And maybe with that information, even though there is an exclusion for autoimmune diseases, where there's some explanation as far as the symptoms that I've experienced, the treatments that he's provided, and my reactions to it, maybe that's a way for me to get into one of these trials that currently I'm excluded from. So I'll be working on getting an appointment with my rheumatologist, and I'm hoping that that will help out. And it's interesting because I thought at the beginning of all this, shortly after my diagnosis, that all right, I'll figure out the type of tumor, type of cancer, and all these other subsets that they talk about, whether or not it's hormone receptor positive or negative, or if there's any DNA variations and other things that I had no clue of before I had to go through all this. I had anticipated at the beginning, okay, well, once there's a plan, there's a plan. And maybe there'll be some tweaks here and there, but it's been so challenging for me in the sense where it seems like it's a constantly changing plan for me. And it's a very different experience than, the others that I've been in communications with who are going through cancer therapy, where they have had a plan and they've gone right through it. And, occasionally they'd miss chemo because of blood tests, but they just pick it up the following week or whenever it was safe to reinstate chemo again. But it seems that with almost every time I turn around, something's always changing and something's up in the air, which has been pretty difficult for me, because then it's really hard for me to focus and say, okay, this is what I need to get there. And I'm really trying to work on that. And, I think in general, I'm a patient person. But what it feels like is because the cancer continues to grow, it's that fear that if we don't have the answers soon, or if we aren't able to implement the treatments that we want, how does that affect my chances? Or how much does that allow the cancer to grow? One of the things that I did look at is like the physician's notes after appointments. I went back and I looked at some of the notes because I forget what is said during these appointments. We don't always remember everything, so those notes are really helpful. And one of the things that it did say is that even though we didn't get the CT scan that we wanted, there were some positive things with respect to the current therapy that I'm on, is the rapid, aggressive rate of cancer growth that I had been experiencing both prior to my first chemotherapy and during the first chemotherapy with the Taxol that did basically nothing, has slowed down. The ascites has slowed down, so that's a very good indication. And some of my symptoms have been able to be managed. And, now I can eat, which is great. Eat like normal, not so much, but hey, I can actually consume more than 500 calories a day, which is excellent. We don't want to be dropping a ridiculous amount of weight. I don't have a lot of weight to drop. So one of the things that I think, as I wait through this medical limbo again, as we're trying to put me in a clinical trial, who will take me and who will accept me with my autoimmune disease, that maybe I just need to focus on, okay, well, even though the gemcitabine hasn't done everything that we've wanted, it's done something, and it's doing something. And, that will give me the time to straighten out these things and get me into a really promising clinical trial, because my doctor said that there were a couple that look really promising for me. It's just enrollment in my damn lupus. So fingers crossed that I have better information next week. Although realistically, I need to think that I'm probably not going to get a lot of more information in the next couple weeks, just because I have cancer. Holidays don't stop. People still go away. If I was working, I always take between Christmas and New Year's off. I wouldn't be working. So I think things are going to be slow in the next 2 weeks, and I need to really remember that. But the best part of it is I think I'm going to be spending substantial amount of time with my kids during the holidays leading up to and after, because they seem to have an awful lot of time off, and they said that they want to spend it with me. So very excited about that. I just need to focus on that, focus on the other good things. And of course, my therapy dog. She's never far from me. So even if she's not in the videos, she is always next to me, supporting me. Well, I hope everyone has a great holiday, regardless of what they celebrate. I know Hanukkah's coming up, I believe sundown on Sunday. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but happy holidays, and until next week, see ya.